What's another example of a somatic metaphor? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot
Well,
here.
no, you're really not. So here's a great example. I have a recording of a coaching demonstration on YouTube, and I'll get you a link to it so that people can
Okay,
go and
we'll
look
put
at
it
the
on.
link. And in that conversation, that coaching conversation, the person I'm working with, the thinker in this conversation, says something about having like just a lot on her plate. And I said, and as you're looking at that plate, how do you discern what you have on and what you have not on your plate? And she turns to me and she goes, "Are you talking like carbs versus proteins?" Now,
Right, right,
who
right,
here has
right,
ever been looking at their plate trying to
right,
assess like how
right.
many carbs am I eating and how much protein, or maybe I'm
Somebody, but I wasn't, and I wasn't thinking that. So it's interesting you gave it back to her to expand the metaphor, and
yes
she expanded it in a way
to
that I
that.
never would have
I
anyway.
never would have. And so I just nodded quietly because I'm like not going to get in the way of that. And she goes on thinking about how she determines carbs versus proteins on her plate. And I just had I have a training that she's in right now for coaching with the power of metaphors. And she's in that course, and we just watched that video. And so I was like, well, we have the luxury of having the thinker be in our midst, and we can ask her experience of that. And she said the thing that was so powerful, and this was a conversation we had 3 years ago, is that she still uses the metaphor she came up with of looking at carbs versus proteins on her plate as she's making decisions about business, about what she's going to say yes to, about what she needs to take off her plate, how she's going to organize her plate. Maybe she'll throw in some sweets here, but maybe she leaves space on the plate for other things, like for
Mhm.
her grandbabies and things like that, right? And so because it was so powerful for her, it was sticky in a way that if I had said, I'm really hearing you bring up this plate metaphor, and I really would like you to kind of look at carbs versus proteins. Like, one, to your point, I would never have thought of that.
No, no, no.
But that would have also completely lost the impact of that self agency that the client brought in naming it for themselves.